And just tell me when you're ready.
It is recording. Go ahead.
Very good. Thanks, Greg and Joanna.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Laureen Kamalu, serving as chair for now for the Utah Indigent Defense Commission. Welcome, everyone, to our meeting today, and thank you so much for being here. The very first thing is to keep sharing the no anchor location information. And so for a long time, we have not had an anchor location because of the pandemic, and all of the laws have provided for us to do something different for now. So we're grateful for that. And as long as we're in the state of emergency, this will be the case, but we will ensure that notice to the public contains information regarding how a member of the public may participate in an electronic meeting. And the determination not to meet in an anchor location shall be valid for 30 days. So that is not new.
Can I say one thing, Commissioner
Yes,
Kamalu?
please. Yes.
As we move into some unknown territory, I think I will continue to
join the meeting.
To always have a Zoom link available, right? I don't want to force any of you all to come back together if you don't want to. So we'll just keep a hybrid version going. Just until we get back to a place where people want to be in the same room together.
That sounds like a great idea, Joanna. Good. Yeah, it'll be a little interesting for a little while. We sense that here in Davis County too. So we'll see. Okay, next up is the approval of minutes, and make sure everyone has a chance to get those handy. If you made any notes, I'll be happy to take anything that people have noticed as a correction that might be needed. I did not find any, and I just wanted to make a little note, bring it to people's attention to, actually, I love minutes. I learn over and over from minutes, but Greg pointed out, this is on page 3, staff, Greg pointed out that as part of the fiscal year 22 grant application process, counties are required to submit system needs evaluations and have strategic planning meetings with the IDC staff. I'm really excited about this upcoming grant application process and how it sounds like it just gets better every single year. So thanks for sharing that with us last time, Greg. And I'll hear anyone else's input or take a motion to approve.
I'll move approval. Rich Morrow.
Great.
Second.
Second by Michael Zimmerman. Very good. Is there anyone who does not approve these minutes? Go ahead and state your name if you don't. All right, it's unanimous. Thanks, everyone. So then we'll have our staff and commissioners share about today. I hope everyone wore special clothing today, because this is Utah Public Defense Day 2021. And thank you to Katrina for working on that and everyone else who worked on that. Governor Cox agreed that this was an important day to recognize. And so Joanna or whoever else, please share with us more. And I printed mine out, but if not, you can just look sideways.
I know, I can't figure out how to open it. I'm gonna let Katrina talk a little bit about all she did to get this up and running, if you don't mind, Katrina. Is Katrina there?
So we were pleased to have the governor's office approve this declaration, and they also distributed a press release today for us. So we tried to get the word out to everybody. And I'm sorry, some of you got like 3 or 4 different emails from different listservs that we have, but we were just trying to get the word out, and are pleased with the governor's office support of this day.
Yes, Katrina, thank you so much. That took a bit of doing, but it was worth doing. And thank you so much for that.
And it's,
go ahead.
Sorry, can I talk for
a
second?
Yes, please.
So that's 2 governors who've done that for us. And I think that is not insignificant. it is the anniversary of the Gideon versus Wainwright decision. So this day gets celebrated across the country, but when it has come up in groups of mine about how we celebrate it, we said, you know, we've gone to the governor and asked for a declaration, and people were like, and they declared it? We said, yeah, we even had a party last year. So it's somewhat unique to have governors doing this declaration. So it's not insignificant that Katrina has gotten both of them to do this. And I don't know if you know this, but you have to get a day declared every year. It doesn't always become Public Defense Day. So if someone gets in line ahead of us, it could be day after Leprechaun Day or something if we don't. But today it is declared. So that's all.
Well, and that was kind of a question I had, whether you have to go through, I did not know there'd been one before now, so that was good to know. And the fact that you have to do it each year kind of makes sense, but seems so important. Anniversary of Gideon versus Wayne.
Wainwright.
A Wainwright?
Yep, that was the case that said that the right to counsel was, or the right to a fair trial was so fundamental, and the right to counsel so critical to ensuring that because of the 6th and 14th Amendments, the states were responsible for ensuring the 6th Amendment right to counsel. They didn't say how or what that looked like, and they haven't. They've continually expanded it to misdemeanors and child welfare and juveniles. Actually, juveniles were before 1963, but they've never said exactly how to do it. So.
And this is Mary. The phrase that I love most from Gideon versus Wainwright is that competent defense counsel is a necessity, not a luxury.
Ah, wow, yes. You guys talk too fast because I take notes, and that just gives me chills when I hear things like this. Very cool. Super cool. Okay.
We did some calculations with the cases, and Leslie looked at the caseloads or the filings, and we calculated that about 111,000 cases every year are eligible for a public defender or a court-appointed attorney to represent clients. So it is a significant number of all the cases that are in the courts every year.
In Utah.
In Utah.
Wow.
And what percentage do we think actually get appointed counsel?
Depends on which court you're in and which county you're in still, and which judge you're in front of. But it's, I mean, I think Rich's office consistently handles at least 80% of Salt Lake County's cases, and in rural district courts, it's closer to 90. Juvenile court, because of the law, should be 100% of kids in court. Child welfare, it is harder to determine. And then justice court representation still, we know, is all over the map. Ryan is smiling. I tried to choose. It is all over the map. We see rates from 0 to 100% in justice courts.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. This is the data and statistics that I need to know. So thank you so much. Any other comment about the significance of what all of you are doing?
Yeah, the best part about the Gideon case, it was a handwritten petition to the Supreme Court, like in pencil from his jail cell. So
Wow.
that's the best part of the decision, or at least the court granting certiorari in the case.
Wow, that's amazing. What does certiorari mean?
It essentially means that the Supreme Court gets probably hundreds of thousands of petitions that are filed every year, and the United States Supreme Court probably accepts somewhere in the order of about 100 cases.
Yeah.
And so they have discretion to decide, and when they accept a writ or they accept the jurisdiction for the case, they've granted certiorari in the case.
That's the term. Yeah, I kind of knew what it all was, but I didn't know the term. Thank you so much. Wow, our handwritten. What's that, Joanna? That
is a copy. It's a copy of it. It's hard to, for some reason, it's not letting me enlarge it, but that's a copy of his handwritten petition.
Oh my goodness, look at that. if you send that to me, I'm going to print that and I'm going to put it inside in a special place. You guys are making me cry. Don't make me cry today. My goodness. What a time. How did I get in this group anyway?
Commissioner, I love that you're that invested in it, that you care that much about it. Thank you. We
Yeah,
all certainly do.
I'm not afraid to ask questions either, am I, Todd Weiler?
No, and I ask myself every month how I got in this group.
But he doesn't cry as much as I do. Maybe he needs to spend more time with me. All right. Anything else on that? That was huge. That's going to be the highlight of today for me. So good job, Katrina and everyone. Very important. All right, legislative update. On the agenda, it says our legislators are going to give us updates, but I know that Joanna Landau is perhaps not a legislator, but she worked her guts out for a long time. 45 days plus weekends, right? So happy to hear updates from all of you who are going to share with us today. However you want to organize that, Joanna.
I'll defer to the legislator who is present.
Okay,
Senator.
well, thank you. I'm looking at my screen rather than my phone, but I'll try to bring it closer. But so I think the big news, as all of you know, is we got our 2 million. I think it's 1 million one time, 1 million ongoing. When the original budget came out with less than a week to go, we weren't on it at all, which was quite disconcerting to say the least. But Joanna and Joel and I and others scrambled and we got on there, thank goodness. So so that's the good news. I mean, 2 million ongoing would have been better than what we got, but regardless of what you hear about in the news, most of our money, most of our surplus this year was one-time money. So I think we were, I'm grateful that we got the 1 million ongoing and then the other the second million. So just to give you a little flavor, you know, most states were cutting their budgets this year because of the pandemic and the recession, and we were expanding ours, and that's due to a lot of factors. I won't go into all those, but one of the examples why we had so much one-time money, one of the examples that the fiscal analyst gave me was this: if someone got a $1,800 stimulus check or you know, a check for the pandemic last spring, and they went out and bought an ATV, a $6,000 ATV, the state would collect the sales tax on all $6,000, even though they had only paid the $1,800 and they're supposed to make payments after that. And so they look at stuff like that and say, well, the sales tax that we got last year, part of that was a one-time phenomenon, although now we're getting the $1,400 stimulus checks. And so we're one of the only states that breaks down our surplus as one-time and ongoing. But just like if you got a bonus at work, you wouldn't go out and buy a new house based on a bonus, I guess, depending on how big the bonus was. But if you got a raise at work, then you might go out and buy a new car because you could afford the monthly payments. And so we try to do the same thing with our budget. With respect to the bills, we passed the 2 bills that we ran. And again, I'm glad Joanna's keeping track, because on the last night of the session, one of our bills wasn't up on the board, and there had been an oversight in the list that got sent over from the Senate to the House, because we prioritize our bills on the last 3 days of the session. And so Joanna sent me a text in the evening of the last night and said, so I guess
I believe it was 10:15 when when the text was sent.
I don't think it was that late, but anyway, she's like, so I guess that bill's not going to get passed or whatever. And I'm like, wait. So we hurried up and got the list on the board amended, and it passed. And so we passed Senate Bill 105 and we passed, was it Senate Bill 84? They both passed. The second one, the one that she texted me about, and I'm glad she was, and I'm sorry, I had 20 bills. So I'm voting on all the other bills and stuff. So I kind of lost track of that one, which is my bad. But in any event, that bill allows us to ask for an RFP for the transcripts. We're paying an exorbitant amount because because the state actually sets by statute the amount that court reporters can charge per page, and the per page amount for Utah is like the second or third highest in the nation. And the court reporters would push back and say, well, wait a second, there's other things other states are doing. But in any event, we can put out a request for proposal and hopefully get someone to bid for a lower rate. I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to strip somebody off, and maybe they'll start their own home-based business and start doing our transcripts for less money. The other one basically reorganized the IDC so that Joanna doesn't report directly to the head of CCJJ. In the past, that's been always an attorney and usually a defense-oriented attorney, but now under the Cox administration, it's Tom Ross, who's a former police chief and has kind of law enforcement background. So I guess the good news is now if we want to fire Joanna, I think we can do that as a board. Is that correct, Joanna?
Yes, finally, to everyone's joy, it is spelled out in statute exactly how to fire me. So go for it, find a majority.
We don't have to convince anybody else. We can just do it at home. So
you do have to convince each other. You have to get a majority.
Yeah,
so.
And we're not going to fire Joanna, but anyways, do you want to supplement that, Joanna, at all?
Just on the transcripts bill, Rich, it would allow you to also work either with the person who bids less for the state contracts or to run your own kind of open bidding process to try and get someone to do it for less. Whether we find someone, I think will be open, but it would, the way the bill is, we rewrote the statute, it's open to anyone. So to let local governments also try and find a cheaper way to provide this, because it's a huge expense for Salt Lake County. It's a big expense for even the smaller counties having transcripts, because it shows up even if you aren't doing appeals. If you need a transcript for a after a prelim to take to trial, or just other pieces of the trial work, transcript costs really add up. So hopefully it'll help. It may need a continued discussion though, because if we don't find anyone, it'll still be expensive.
Joanna, do you have a sense of how much is spent statewide on that for indigent defense?
Yes, we do, because we gave it to the legislature, but do I have it in front of me? No, we were expecting, so from some of our jury trial appeals that we've had, I think the costs have ranged from $6,000 to $8,000. And so jury trials are adding up, and if there's 20 jury trial appeals, you can do the math there. I think Weber County or Salt Lake County was spending around 100,000. Weber was around 80,000. Leslie, can you remember what our bill, or Deborah, what our bill has been so far? Significant. Not insignificant.
Do we think we can find cost cutters?
I don't know. I think Senator Weiler's right. It would take someone committing to just doing this work and not the other work, but they have a lobbying group and they have a kind of a union, and they were not really willing to work with us on this bill to try and find a better resolution. So I don't know. Hello, other legislative member. You've driven the tractor right up just at the right time. We're talking about the legislature.
Perfect. Sorry I'm late, guys, but I'm happy to be here. I had another call that went a little long, just barely. So.
No, Senator Weiler was just talking about the heroic work you all did to get the funding reinstated in that final week after it was not there. So we owe you a huge debt of gratitude, like enormous. I believe I went to bed one night with you saying there's nothing and woke up to a text saying there's 2 million. So yeah.
Those were a panicky few days.
It was touch and go, but here we are.
Here we are.
Thank you.
Joel, are you paid? Joel, do you receive an endorsement from John Deere for wearing their sweatshirt?
Hold on, let me get a close up of that. If only I had to buy this hoodie. It cost me $300,000 tractor.
Yeah, that's. I'm surprised they didn't let you have at least one for the.
I don't think that's fair. Yeah.
They don't throw in a sweatshirt with the tractor.
Well, I wish they would throw a tractor in with the sweatshirt. I wish they would do, but it doesn't work that way.
Are you prohibited because of state rules from receiving a commission, entering into a contract because Joel Ferry is wearing and supports John Deere?
I don't know. Probably not, but I can tell you from a campaign perspective, I got creative and my campaign colors are the John Deere green and yellow, but I modified them slightly to avoid any sort of copyright infringement or licensing infringement. So I call it Joel Ferry green and yellow instead of John Deere green and yellow. Anyway, way off topic. I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to join, and if I can provide input, I'm happy to do so.
I mean, you didn't hear what Senator Weiler said, but he basically ran over a little bit of the legislative funding and the two bills. Do you have anything else from the House perspective? We haven't yet quite talked about bail and that fun issue, but anything on
I'll just say from the funding perspective, I think, we were able to get the $1 million ongoing and the $1 million one time, so a $2 million increase. But the biggest benefit was that $1 million ongoing, because we don't have to, unless we get into dire circumstances, we're not going to have to go back and fight for that year after year. So that's going to be very steady revenue into the IDC that we have the ability to use and look forward as we develop our granting and other programs and appellate programs. So I think that was more of an oversight. Let me just say that than it was something that was targeting or some negativity towards IDC, because it was ranked out in committee, and it was more of just, there were so many moving parts, and there was a lot of one-time money. There wasn't very much ongoing. So the fact that we got $1 million ongoing shows the support that is there from the legislature for the work that Joanna, that you're doing and your team. So I think ultimately, that, like I said, that support's there, and we need to continue to operate at that high level to maintain that support, and it'll be there for us. So.
I couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, good job, and yes, thank you.
But I will say this also, when that funding came out on Friday, from Friday to Monday, between legislators, Adam and I, we had contacted people across the state, and they were all willing to advocate for us, right? County lobbyists, county commissioners, representatives, senators. So that was comforting that we had built that network, right?
And that's what made the difference. That's why that funding came back or was put in there, was because of those efforts, especially when you show, like, I think it was brilliant to show the support on a county level, because that's that broad base, and it's not just from the IDC or from a few commissioners, but across statewide, liberal, conservative, everybody, indicating how important this is. So I think that's the way to push this and the way to get support for it.
It's great.
And maybe, Joanna, the thought that comes with Representative's statement, because I was thinking in my mind, how do we then move this to where it can be 2 million ongoing predictably, right? And maybe that broad base and just being able to advocate that way will be next step for us.
Yeah, I mean, we have we started with 1.5, which was a mix of ongoing and one time. And then over the 5 years, we've had it slowly increase. 1 year we got 5 million ongoing, right? So we're up with the 1 million ongoing. We have 6.6 ongoing plus the million one time. And if you remember, the appellate division was not fully funded last year. So a lot of that ongoing will need to be dedicated there, and the grants will be kind of funded with the one time, but it's sixes, right? It's not purple and green money when we're awarding it to some level, except because our grants are 1 year grants, right? It doesn't, So it will all work out, but it does mean that we have to come back to the legislature and continue asking for funding, which one day I hope is not in my job description.
Yeah, amen.
Of course, the advantage of getting more ongoing is it creates more confidence in our grantees that we're going to be here with money, which is one of the things that at the beginning they were skeptical of. So they aren't willing to make changes and make matches if they think we're going to disappear. So
Right.
this it's a big deal to get another $1 million.
Yes. Anything more?
Commissioner,
Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to add something quickly too. You know, the funding piece is crucial, obviously, in getting legislation passed related to IDC is very important. Something that really impressed me this year, though, because I wasn't really in the midst of the legislative work last year, I was very new, but I was just pretty impressed by how many allies we have on defense side, how many people there are coming forward and really willing to work on legislation to try to address the issues for defendants and those people who are charged. It's a big group and crosses a lot of boundaries. Not everybody's all together at any time, but it's an impressive thing to see. And there's a lot of people in this committee, folks who they work with, who really stepped forward and did a lot of work to work on legislation. And people pushing from different directions means that legislation has to change some. So I was really gratified to see that. I think it's a great message about how we're getting defense side voice out there, and it's on child welfare side too. So I'm excited to keep going this interim. Just thank you to everybody who is on this commission who helped do the work and helped us get the voice out from IDC.
And one more thanks that we need to just publicly get on the record. The governor's office really went to bat for us too. GOMB, we're in the executive branch and they have been enormously supportive. The transition from Herbert to Cox has gone seamlessly in the support. So thank you also to that side of the three branches.
Yes.
We only have three of them here, or we only have one of them here. 2 houses, 1 branch.
Right. Yes.
Senator Weiler, did you want to say anything else?
No. First time for everything.
Thank goodness we had that recorded. Commissioner Kamalo, do you want to talk about the pretrial bill at all?
Oh, yes. Adam, that was a great statement and really segues us into that very topic. Everyone is aware that HB 206 was not implemented until October of 2020, and there was a lot of work. And I will make a quote right here from a signed letter that I have from many people, including our own Davis County Public Defense Coordinator, and our esteemed Rich Morrow as a commissioner here, and many others. As Adam said, there is a lot of support around this whole entire state through all the counties for this work in pretrial and indigent defense. And so the quote is, HB 206 implemented consensus policy decisions and years of work by the courts on issues around pretrial processes. So, but, you know, for whatever the reasons were, there was an attempt to repeal, and really what kind of came out of it was something, I just really liked Senator Weiler's statement. I watched your whole floor. Yeah, it was well done. And so I think the quote there was, it's not really a repeal, it's a repeal that doesn't repeal, and it's a fix that doesn't fix. Just kind of words I'll never forget. Whew, that's good. So yeah, that's kind of what came out of the session, but we know that it's even that's not going to stick. It can't stick. it's got some real problems with it. So anyway, I'm open to whatever people would like to share in this group with one another. Because I just know, I think where it sits right now is it's still in the hands of the governor, right? Who has 45 days to, oh, go ahead, Joanna, give the update.
20 days.
20
Yeah.
days. Oh, so we're almost to the end of.
Yes, so he has until a week from today. I met with him during the session. I met with him and the lieutenant governor and personally asked him to veto the bill, which I've never done before in my 10 sessions. With Governor Herbert, I never did that. And this is the only bill I've asked Governor Cox to repeal. And I called, today was Public Defender's Day, I called and spoke to the chief of staff for the governor, John Pierpont, and said, what a perfect day today would be to announce the repeal of House Bill 220. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I guess we just really don't know more than that yet. Although we do know that there's a lot of people, again, doing what they can to help inform. And
Can the IDC make a recommendation or write a letter to the governor? Would it make any difference? Senator
I
White?
think I think they could, but I think it's a bad idea for political optics moving forward, especially because House leadership's was backing the repeal of 206. So I just don't think we want to stick our neck out like that.
okay, good advice. But as I mentioned, there's people who are involved in the work that needs to be done and who have been educating and been writing letters. So I'm grateful for that, for all the people doing their part. Anything else that should be shared, Joanna, about that?
No, it's really important and it affects indigent defense. And so I think being part of the continuing conversation is important for us because it will make some of the work that public defenders do harder and more confusing. And we heard a lot of that. So, to the extent that we can help educate and help and hear from rural counties and other counties about how things are being implemented one way or the other, I think that'll be really relevant to the continuing conversation. Because what I've been trying to tell the legislature since the JRI audit came out was that the JRI audit was really focused on the back end, right? Getting people out of prison, reducing penalties so they didn't spend as much time in prison, but it didn't really look at the pretrial side of things, which from what we know about indigent defense and the early appointment of counsel is critical to how the whole shape of a case occurs and what happens in it, right? So the pretrial aspect of things is important, especially when 90% of cases result in pleas, right? And don't go to trial. So I think there is hopefully room for us in this continuing conversation. And yes, that's all.
Thank
Should we
you.
move on to funding?
Yes.
What we're going to
let's
do with that money?
Yeah, let's do. I'm excited. Go ahead. So this is the upcoming fiscal year 22 grant process overview. Looks like Adam and Leslie and Greg will inform us. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Leslie's going to share her screen soon to give the slides we're going to walk through.
Sorry, I've lost it, but I'll share it in a second. Too many tabs open. Oh my gosh, no, my computer is just.
Sorry, the one in the meeting materials was our first draft, so now we have another one, we hope.
Everyone see it?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Perfect.
2022 IDC grant process. Take it away.
Thank you. So I think you'll recall that we worked on the idea of starting with a more collaborative grant process this year. In past years, we've asked for competitive applications and sort of guided the counties and the systems. but we wanted to start in a more collaborative way this year. And you'll probably also recall that we talked about the need to work on organizational capacity. And really the focus for us this year was on managing defenders, on the role of managing defender and the responsibility. So Leslie, you can go to the next slide. We talked about that because we realized there's a set of tasks that need to happen. There's got to be some ability for a manager to develop the system and to address problems that are in it and strengthen areas that are strong. So having that idea of a managing defender position being defined and the capacity for it as a top priority, we divided into 3 tiers what we would expect to see from grant requests actually. So tier 1 is requests that help to establish or increase a managing defender position in a multi-county or county plus city system, or something that's in a first and second class county where a lot of the systems have a lot of attorneys and they're big population, obviously. Second tier would be smaller single county systems from 3rd through 6th class counties, so non-regional, but still focusing on the managing defender idea and that position, how we develop that to strengthen the system. Tier 3, any other grants, any other funding that for resources that counties and cities are asking for, they drop to that lower level. Those are tiers we agreed we'd establish in way the outline we'd use for evaluating grant requests. I think you probably also recall that one of the questions that came up was around the idea of, well, is this only for new money? Is this only we'll refund everything that we already have and then we'll just use this for new money? That question, I think we're going to have to address when we get the full request, but using these tiers, I do think it raises the question for us to keep in mind. If a county has a weak 1 or 2 system under the top 2 priorities, but they have tier 3 grants, how will we view those and what are we going to look to make a decision on how we handle that request? So we're not there yet, but we need to keep that in mind as we go forward. The process for collaboration obviously is something we're going to have to work with the systems on a lot. And before we could start to have those meetings, we did need to learn something about the systems that are out there in those counties and cities that are interested and find out what they have. Leslie, you can go to the next slide too, because as we did that.
Before you do, can we go back to that last slide for just 1 second? I know that it has been a while, but you may remember that you commissioners already approved this. I see Tom is now on, so Tom was not here in the voting on the approval, but you approved this approach to our grants this year, just as a reminder. It was pre-legislative session, maybe even back in the fall. And this was as a result of us really looking at our grants and determining that without a managing defender and without a contact point, we can throw all the money in the world at systems, but we're not going to ever get the data and the accountability for what increases and improvements are really happening. So we need that point of contact to do all the duties for a county that Rich does, Pam does for Salt Lake County, that Todd Utzinger does for Davis County, and to make sure that they're doing the things that need to be done to comply with state and federal law. So just as a reminder and an introduction to you, Tom, as to why these tiers of funding requests are there, because you at one point all agreed that they should be there. I see you nodding fervently that you remember that decision and stand by it now. Go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you.
It is, and it's important. It actually goes into the next point of this. As we're looking at these systems and we're starting our collaborative meetings, we really needed to learn something about each of the systems. We needed to know what they had, and to be honest, a lot of the systems needed to have a better handle on what they had in terms of management and how those functions were being handled. So we produced a needs evaluation and sent it to the counties and cities. And the questions focused on a number of areas, but the primary focus was with regard to whether there was in fact a defender managing the system at all and working on the organization, and what those duties were that they were carrying. And there were a number of things that you would anticipate from needed in someone who's actually providing management function. So we asked those questions, and in a lot of situations, we found that the system was not certain about the answer to some of those points, or they had a managing defender who was doing a lot of the tasks and the functions that we thought were necessary, but there were some gaps. What we got, we learned that from the 22 counties that responded in the 3 cities. Of those 23 counties, 4 cities, 22 counties were interested in applying for grant. 1 was not certain, and the 3 cities were interested also. So we gathered that information, and we'll use it for our collaborative meetings. I'll tell you a little more detail in a minute. The caseload survey was a separate piece that we sent out also to the same systems. And we're pretty happy that we did receive responses directly from 102 attorneys who had contracts and were involved in these systems. We also received average caseload information from 163 additional attorneys who work for the organization you see listed there. It's in Utah and Salt Lake counties. This data was really helpful in a lot of ways, but one of the primary issues was that it helped us to understand how much time an attorney or attorneys with contracts were spending on those contracts. So an attorney with a district court contract was asked how much of their work time did they spend on that contract, and if they had others, how much time did they put into a juvenile court contract. So it helped us to understand how many attorneys were actually working full time on these different contracts as opposed to working part time on a number of them. So we'll use that information going forward at part of the continuing process as we try to figure out what caseloads are and where there are severe significant needs.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt again, Adam.
Please do. I want you to. That's good. Thank you.
Let's see if my audio works. There it goes. So this is revolutionary. Adam's soft pedaling this. If you remember, we were created because we didn't know how the 29 counties and 246.7 cities on any given day were providing indigent defense. No one had ever known that about Utah, right? It had just been delegated. And so this is sort of the first effort to really query them and to really find out. And yes, Ryan, we did, and Heather, we did not fully do that with cities, but to get 23 counties to respond to that inquiry is huge, because now we have a map, right? We know where the problems are, where our grant funding can be better targeted. And the caseload survey is going to help Leslie with that data component that we've also been missing, right? What are the cases? Who's balancing the cases? Can people really do the job they're set out to do? And it's great. And I've never had this competent of staff who can just pull this out of their hats and get it done, and such that when the 45 days ends and I come back and say, hi, what are we doing? They say, oh, we're good. We got this. And so they did all of this, and it's phenomenal, right? And if you remember, Leslie started in January of last year. Adam started in January of last year. Greg is 2 years in. Katrina's 2 years in, roughly. And so I'm impressed by them. And I'm also really proud that we are starting to get a better picture of the state, because to some extent, we haven't known exactly what we're funding and why. And this will help us do that.
Thank you. I want to add something. Joanna, that's great to mention, because I avoided it, because to get into the detail is complicated, but once you see it, it is truly amazing. One of the things I found, just one part of it, is the data that's been collected. Leslie has broken down that in a way that can demonstrate and identify where attorneys who have contracts, which counties they have contracts in, and then which cities, but which counties they have contracts in, and how much time they anticipate spending on that work in a given county. We're crossing over and collecting information that I agree we've never had before. And in fact, it's not easy to get. There is no centralized reporting until now. So I think it's tremendous. Okay, so that being said, we've done the evaluation. After we gathered that information as staff, we pulled together what the responses were. We summarized the findings and especially summarized areas of need that had been identified through the responses. And we realized at that point we had some information. The counties and cities had been up to date a little bit on what they're updated and collected their own information. It gave them some knowledge of where they were. And we produced documents that we'll get to also in a minute, but they give us the chance to go forward to meet with counties and those cities that are participating to come up with some common understanding and answer some questions, and also then make recommendations for what they might ask for in the coming year. So you go to the next slide, please, Leslie. There it is. Well, we've been doing a huge amount of work in coordinating meetings, which any of you who do that know how difficult it is. Greg's been, he may be full-time on trying to set up meetings and make contacts, but it is important for us to get engagement and then be ready to have kind of lengthy meetings with everyone. So we've had just for the purpose of coordinating and planning the meetings, we've made 22 or so calls to system defenders around the state. We've also included in that 8 calls to counties and cities that we have not worked with in the past. They're not part of our grant process, but they're interested. That direct contact is obviously helpful. We intend to hold 20 meetings. Some of them will include more than one system as we get together to talk about what's going on in the region or between the city and county. And in those 20 or so meetings, we expect more than 80 people to attend. We're not just going with the lead defender, we're actually including county representatives and admin support that work for those attorneys who are under contract. Last couple of meetings we've had, that larger group has been great to help us understand the systems and collect some information on questions we had, but also see that there are interested people involved and engaged. We had a commissioner from Uintah County yesterday who was clearly up to speed on what we're doing, had good questions, had been talking to the lead defender there too. Anyway, these meetings will continue, but as you can see, by the real purpose is to collaborate to both get a greater understanding of the system and have the grantees understand what's likely to be funded, have them understand the priorities we have, and specifically talk about managing defender duties and how we can build on that and how we can strengthen that role. We hope to or plan to have a simplified application process that has more of a common understanding between staff and the grantees on their application, so we can bring collaborative options to the commission. And we really want the applicants to focus on our top priorities, and we want to help them identify those as their top priorities too. So that's the process. We have one more step. I wanted to share some information on one of these documents look like. And I'll stop for a minute if anybody has any questions or wants to make a comment on where we've gone so far. Okay.
Adam, I'll
Yes.
say that as a county commissioner and representing UAC, Utah Association of Counties, on the others, I guess, the pretrial subcommittee, it just is so important to have these relationships and these understandings and to continue to really capitalize on their interest to understand more, right? Because I believe that commissioners do want to understand more, and there's a lot to their jobs, just like a legislators, there's a lot. So this is so helpful. It's for so many reasons, but it will help us help them even better. So proud of it. This is great work.
Good. Yeah, it's gratifying to see commissioners involved and paying attention, even if they want to be less involved in the system of public defense. When they are involved and they understand the issues, it helps everybody move it forward. So it's the key to collaboration. So I want to show you, this is back to the last one. There you go. Thanks, Leslie. This is really the heart of what we're presenting in the meetings we're having with the systems as we work on these discussions. I want to stress too, what we have on the left is a list of needed improvements, and We did not talk in these meetings a lot about strengths and about what the system is doing well, partly because we're trying to address gaps and problems that are there. We know that strengths exist, and in some places like Uintah County, there's a good solid managing defender who does this with almost all of his time. He's got good support staff, and they've got a good connection to the county. So they are dealing with a lot of the normal management functions that you would hope to see from a defender. And so we didn't identify a lot of serious gaps. What we did identify is some issues that could be system improvements, right? Things we could make better, and in fact, their responsibilities that a managing defender could take on to help develop that system. So we hope to keep working with him on that. We hope to keep working on the structure in general. You can see in the last slide too, we had questions that we raised. Those led to good discussion. And in the final part, we had our recommendations for what might be proposed and requested by the county, again, divided into tiers. Tier 1 funding, great. We'll look to that, bring that forward to us. And then Tier 3, if your system is doing pretty well and you have some other needs for resources, please ask for those. And the commission will consider them based on priorities that we've established and we're all agreed with. So not that much that we suggest for Uintah County, but a good format and a good process for us to be able to have the dialogue and see whether they agree or if they'd like to ask for something else. So I'll start to wrap up. Once the meetings are concluded, we'll be moving forward with the process. Meetings are going to be wrapped up by the first couple of weeks of April. By the 10th of April, we'll get the requests from the systems, which are not their application, but their request for a project and the amount they're asking for. We will bring this information forward to the commission on the 22nd and ask them to assign dollar amounts that they would like to give to each tier level. And that'll be based on the total request. So we'll have some dialogue about that. May 14th, application submitted by the systems. And then on the 27th, we'll ask the commission to do their normal review and to make decisions on what they will fund. Funding is available on July 1st, so it gives us some time to get everything in place. That's all I have. That's our process. I think it's going to be solid. So far, we're having good collaboration. We hope to keep building on that in our upcoming meetings, and we're learning more as we go forward. So thanks.
Adam, that's great. Thank you. Joanna, your hand's up.
It is. Leslie, will you stop screen sharing? Adam forgot to mention that Wally gets a gold star because Wally was the first commissioner to participate in one of these meetings with us. So Wally, you may not see it under the bow tie, but gets a gold star. We really do want you all to participate as well in these meetings because I think it's really informative as to, oh, I'm sorry, and Michael also has his star. Sorry, Michael, it was hidden under your collar. Michael and Wally have already participated in 2 meetings. Michael, you were involved in Iron and Parowan City. Wally, you were involved in Weber County. And what's great is I think it helps I think Wally and Michael learned something, but they're also able to ask questions that we as staff can't necessarily ask, right? Pointed, insightful, incisive questions. And so that's really helpful. So we will send out invitations to you all to participate in them, but I wouldn't mind knowing who would like to be involved in the Box Elder discussion tomorrow at 9 a.m. or the Duchesne discussion at 10:45 or the Sevier and Wayne discussion at 2 p.m. Do I have any volunteers? We see everyone's hands up. God, how will I ever choose?
Great. Michael, you put a finger up. What was that, a volunteering?
Well, I have a home in Wayne County. And
yes, you do.
What time is it tomorrow?
From 2 to 3 p.m.
Yeah, let me look here. I think, yes, I'd be happy to do that. One of the things,
have 2 gold stars before this is over, Michael.
One of the things that I noticed yesterday was that when county commissioners and city people sit in with defenders, when you're talking about this data, it seems to me we're creating a feedback loop for those who are funding Defender work to see Defender reporting, which I'm not, and then see how we tie money into it. And I'm not sure they would ordinarily see that feedback loop.
That's some really good insight, Michael, because I don't know how it works in all 29 counties, but all 3 commissioners in Davis County only hear from, for sure, our managing Defender one time a year. And that's in the fall budget season, anticipating approving a budget for the next year. And so, yes, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the executive commission responsibilities to have a more of an opportunity with that part of their county.
Well, and there's value in seeing how we prioritize changes in the way defenders do business.
Yeah.
And how that changes the money that's available in some situations where defenders might resist some of the changes, as Adam was saying, because they're spending time on private matters or they're working in multiple jurisdictions and the county commissioners or the city people don't know the workload issues. So
yes,
you can kind of tighten up funding perhaps and administration for the local governments. I think it's a great idea.
So I learned something very interesting when I listened in on the Weber County meeting on, I guess it was Tuesday, but whatever the name of the gentleman is that represents Weber County, what I learned is that although we view it as a real priority for the funding to be done completely independently of the county commission and for the county commissioner or the county attorney's office to not have any input. This gentleman worked for the county attorney's office, and at least what I learned was that, he's very well respected by the county commissioners. And so having him as a liaison or as a respected and trusted person who can also support the defender request for increased funding or whatever the funding request is, it made perfect sense to me that although as a priority, we would like the funding to be independent of the Salt Lake County or of the county attorney's office, it made sense that this representative, who had been a defense attorney at one point in his career, he was a great asset to getting funding for Weber County. So although in the perfect model might be excluding the county attorney's office, in this case, at least in Weber, it's very helpful. So that if the county commissioners are suspicious of the request, this gentleman could help to say, these are very reasonable requests. So it was educational for me, very helpful.
Can I cabin that a little bit, Wally? Because Weber County is a very big county, right? And they have a civil deputy and a prosecutor. So Brian Barron, who we spoke with, is civil in the civil side of the county attorney's office. And he is very clear that he is trying to work himself out of a job with Indigent Defense, right? He is helping us to get their system structured and more independent. And to be fair, in all the work I've done over these 5 years, I've started with the county attorneys because they are the ones who know the commissioners and the city council people the best, municipal attorneys in that case. But the goal is not to build in their involvement, but to build them out of the equation. And to have the county commissioners able to rely, as Commissioner Kamalu does, on their public defender directly, right? And Salt Lake County as well, on their public defenders. So just a cautionary tale about that.
Well, he was willing to say that the gentleman that I was very impressed by, that, my successor might not be so friendly to defense requests. So
no, it's true. I see others of you volunteering. Rich, can we sign you up for Duchesne at 10:45?
Yeah, yes, I'll do it.
I suggested Ryan could be helpful for that too, Joanne, if we want more than one. I think strong voice is helpful, but I'll let people choose where they want to be, of course.
I'm trying to catch up with everyone's texts. Is anyone available for the 9 a.m.? Box Elder is actually one of our hero stories. Yes, Representative Ferry, would you be involved with that one?
Well, is
Yay.
that appropriate where it's who I represent and where I live?
It's very appropriate
Fine,
to
right?
know how well
Alright.
they're doing. I think Box
Let's do
Elder
it.
is one of our quiet success stories. So,
Will you send me is that a link or is it, will you send that
no,
to
you'll
me?
just have to figure out how to show up.
I
Yes,
can
of
go
course
over to
we
the
will.
county attorney's office. I mean, I know him well. He's always after me about something. Just kidding. So I'll be there. Send me the info.
Pam has her hand raised. Is that for Duchesne, Box Elder, or Sevier Wayne?
Where do you want me to go?
Are you available? Well, 2 p.m., 10:45, or 9 a.m.? How about we talk later while you're not driving, Pam?
I'm actually not driving. I'm in the driveway.
Oh.
I'm parked in the driveway.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
I think, how about Box Elder, Pam? I think you would also be valuable there.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, so that's 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
And then that's great. There will be lots of others that we will need you involved in, but we're happy to have any and all of you. But thank you for that. I think I got at least one of you at all of those.
To help. So thanks to all of you. Okay, so this, if that takes care of that, then number 6 on the agenda, second non-lapsing requests, discussion and votes. Time to do that.
Oh, this should be pretty quick. If you remember, we had a not insignificant non-lapsing balance, which was really painful to have while we had to cut COVID funding, but it's the way state money works that we couldn't use it in the first part of the year or the latter part of the year. We can only use it in the first part of the year. So we sent out an initial request for short-term requests, and you funded that last time before the session. There weren't a ton of those, and we asked again, and we found a number of requests that came up. So this was how we advertised the second round: one-time funding, COVID-related expenses to be spent by June 30th. I did a little investigation as to whether the counties had spent down their COVID funding, their CARES Act funding in cities. And from what I could best find out, it looks like counties have really gone through that. They are about to receive I believe the term is boatload of money under the new stimulus bill that went through, but that is not yet there. But maybe we will continue to encourage counties to invest in indigent defense. But this is strictly our funding. We ended up getting $621,000 in requests for this much left. I will go through this PowerPoint and these requests. What you'll see that we've gone through and vetted reduces it down to this amount. So we either need to award it as suggested or line item things and go through them. I'll leave that up to you since you all have votes. But just to remember, this is the number of requests. Greg, can you remind me the total that we awarded in the first round, just as a reminder?
It was approximately 650,000. I will double check really quick.
No, that's fine. That's good. Okay. So Greg, do you want to talk about the Washington County one first? This one's the easiest.
Yes, so Washington County previously requested in the first non-lapsing round $22,500 for equipment. There was an unexpected cost for Microsoft Office licenses that totals $5,663, and they're requesting to move funding from defense resources into the equipment line item to pay for that. The caveat to that is that they have a system budget for defense resources that they would need to meet before they could utilize that $20,000. So it would be allowing them to access grant funding prior to meeting the match in their defense resources budget.
And is that because they don't think they're going to spend down their defense resources because jury trials aren't necessarily going to start? I mean, they're going to start.
Yes,
so if you remember, we don't counties have to spend down their side of the funding first. We don't supplant, we just supplement. And so that's this issue. So I think we need to do these individually, not across the board.
That sounds good.
A question.
Yes.
Since they have to spend by July 1st, is that the date?
Yes, before July 1st.
Can we give them money contingent on their, I mean, they won't spend down before July 1st, right? Their own money.
Yeah, it's unknown because so their system spending is broken up into is for specific things like investigators, experts, etc. And they're not close to spending that yet, but they anticipate that as court begins having more and more hearings, that they will use more of that funding in the back half of the grant year. So I don't know that there's any way to guarantee that they would spend their side of the funding.
But is it okay to give Joanna to give them money when we aren't sure they're going to spend down their side?
I don't know. I think it's a little dicey given what we've done in the past and the precedent we've established. That being said, the other requests, well, this is a very specific request. I think we can say yes and award it and then monitor their spending, or we can say no and ask the county to cover that small amount, since we've funded 22,000 already for equipment.
So Joanna, the dilemma they have is we've awarded money for certain categories that they may or may not spend. I mean, we just don't know. But if they spend it, they spend it. And so then we have money that they want for computers, which seem like a reasonable request to me. So, I mean, if on the back end they don't spend it and they become grantees the next year, is the process just rolling over that money back into the grant, or do you take it back? What's the process there? Do you know?
Well, for this award, we said it needed to be used by June 30th. So it wouldn't just roll over. We would roll back into our account, right? We wouldn't have obligated it. Yeah. I think
No, but I mean,
no,
but they'll spend, so they'll spend $5,600 on computers, but they'll still have that money sort of earmarked in a reserve account for the other expenses, right? I mean, as an accounting matter, you could arguably say, look, we're going to spend the $5,600 on computers, which they will do. Now, the money's probably commingled in whatever account they have, but we've earmarked it as an IDC. So they then have in reserve the $20,000 for defense resources that they may or may not spend. I mean, we just don't know. But if they spend it, then obviously they've earned the right to spend $25,663. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, they're going to spend the $5,000 that we would give them on computers. The only question would be, if they don't spend the remaining money by the end of the year, what would we do? I mean, they'd earmark that money for accounting purposes. I think for that purpose would be my guess.
And if I could speak to that a little bit. So they're awarded $20,000 that's contingent upon them first spending their budgeted defense resources. The 22.5 is for laptops, and the additional 5,663 that they are requesting is for licenses, so software for those computers we allowed as equipment. So if they didn't use their defense resources and they don't touch that $20,000 grant, that would essentially be rolled back to the IDC and deobligated. So this would allow them to spend grant money prior to meeting, I guess, their minimum.
For a purpose other than what it was dedicated for.
Yes, potentially.
Oh, so you have segregated it out then. So, I mean, the laptop money and the equipment money is just completely separate money. I mean, it's earmarked as separate money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess
Greg.
the argument to that could be that had they known about this expense, they could have requested as part of that equipment. If it was an ongoing expense for software, it actually does fall under the definition of defense resources as far as previous IDC documents.
So that makes it just even more confusing. I think the motion would be to approve it now or to not approve it now. We have 2 to 3 more IDC meetings scheduled before July 1st, so we could table it and have them demonstrate the spending also before we award it. I think there's a lot of options you have, but someone should make a
that was a
motion.
question I had. Yeah. I guess I'd never even thought or to ask before whether, because there's with a lot of grants, you spend first, then you get the money. And I didn't know how it works for us.
That's how it works for us. This is just a little different because these are short-term one-time
Okay.
funds.
Okay.
And this one is just a particular ask to switch categories that no one else has done.
Got it. Yeah, and Joanna, one last question before I ask for the motion. If we approve these individually or consider them individually, it doesn't really take away from the big picture of how we would allocate it. You know, this one first, we won't go, oh, we wish we would have made a different choice because there's a different need that's considered greater in one of the subsequent ones.
No, it's a really good question. It might. So this is non-lapsing money, which can really only be spent during January to July. That being said, we will have enough ongoing money to spend from July to the next January, such that we could spend it again the following first part of the year. And that sounds super confusing, but you are correct that we could not award any of this and we could hold on to it. We wanted to get our non-lapsing balance down somewhat because it was too high.
Yeah.
But our balance is within shooting range of being appropriate.
Yes.
I've talked to CCJJ's budget or deputy director and about that, what that amount should be. 1.4 was too high, but closer to 500 is less of a target.
Did I understand the first slide accurately though? We still have more that's been requested than we have to be able to give in the non-lapsing.
Yeah.
Well, if we reduce it, we can get there. This is also not our total non-lapsing available. This is the portion available above about a $500,000 cushion.
Okay.
So we will still have about 500 in non-lapsing. It depends on how things with the appellate division roll out, whether we can get people hired on some of that non-lapsing funding before July 1st. The short story is we can safely award this money or we can save it for other awards.
Yeah, okay.
How about I go through the other awards and then we go back and
Sure.
Washington, just so we have them all in context?
That would be
Would
great.
that help?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So Washington is just a funding category, no cost.
Right.
So if you remember, the requests were for one-time COVID related equipment. So Duchesne's request is not eligible. This is Cash's first request. They did not request anything last time. And you can see they all generally look like equipment. I think this doesn't include the ongoing cost of cell phones. So they're splitting some cost.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually that we should not fund this item because they are public defenders with contracts. And it is my understanding, Rich, correct me, and Pam, that you can access Court Exchange for free. And as a public defender, we have a free account with Court Exchange. Rich?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. I don't see that as a line item on our budget. So, well, I was going to ask, I mean, why would we do that as a one-time funding? I mean, that's an ongoing funding matter anyway, even if they have to pay for it. So are these private lawyers that have to pay for Exchange? Is that what this is? Do you know?
So the rule with the court is that if you have a contract, you can use Exchange for the cases on your contract. So for the people who have a split caseload, they're on their honor system to not use it for all their cases. So I think we would be subsidizing private attorneys. I definitely do not believe we should fund that. I forgot to flag it in here, but that one this one line item. Oops. This one.
Yeah, we can keep that in mind with the motion.
Okay.
What are the
Shay's
office
not
supplies,
eligible.
Joanna? Do you know what the office supplies are?
Yeah, they're all in your materials, also the applications. Greg, do you remember generally what the office supplies are? I can't open it up on my computer. Let's come
We'll
back to
check
that
that.
one, Rich. Oh, you got it?
No, give me just
Let
one
me
minute.
just, okay, let me just address Grand, Rich, if that's okay, and hang on to your question. This one's pretty straightforward. Grand, if you'll notice, would be a new county that we have not previously worked with. We have done a lot of outreach to Grand. We met with their county commissioners, and we learned that, you know, Lorraine and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but usually public defense falls into one commissioner's portfolio, the criminal justice commissioner.
Yeah.
So we started talking, we polled them and we said, so which county council members portfolio is this in? And no, none of them. It's not in any of theirs. They have really just had their county budget manager run this, and they have not sort of ever looked at it from a policy body perspective. And so I think we can help Grand a bunch. They've got a defender who's great, and they have not changed their contract amount in 15 years. So there are some things we can help with Grand, but I'm really happy they are working with us. So this would be for the main public defender and the admin supporting.
So you need a motion for this?
Well, you can either do a global motion or one. I think you should choose, or Lorraine should ask for that.
Yeah. By the way, I went back to my materials because I didn't see this in the shared file.
It's in a big chunky folder, and it moved it in and out. It may not have been there much earlier.
Yeah. So
But
anyway,
it's hard.
in case someone else didn't see it, I didn't see it either, which is fine. You're going over it really well for us right now. Yeah, if someone is comfortable with a motion to do it globally, I'm happy to take.
We're not done yet. We're not done yet. We still have more.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to make a motion on this page, we still have these to go through.
Okay, yeah, keep going.
Okay. Iron also did not receive funding the last time around. Not sure if you can see this total. So that's the total, 9,995. It was represented to me that the judges are going to kill the defenders if they don't get new computers. I believe that was an overstatement, but there is a need for new computers. These are all contract attorneys. We have a managing defender there, and Iron has been a great partner in improving indigent defense. I will just make that plea. JUAB, our longtime partner, we already awarded 5,000 for this exact amount. There's some question as to whether they actually need this continuing expense. I think if they do, they could ask for it after they've proven that they've incurred it. But I would recommend not awarding this amount or awarding a significantly lower amount. San Pete is similar. We also awarded them 72,000 in the first round. That was for contractors and additional caseload help, as well as defense resources. So it's just our recommendation that of the priority items, we've already met the first round of their requests. Can I move on to the next page?
Yes, unless anyone has a question. Okay.
So Margaret, you'll forgive me for this, but part of the reason Millard, San Pete and JUAB have requested both times is they are very well organized, right? Our managing defender is Utah County Public Defender, and they are very organized, right? This is what we're hoping to get for, is that everyone has the capacity to ask for this, but they're so good at asking for it that they have asked for a lot. And you'll see this in Utah County's request. And I have spoken with Utah County's requester, and the statement was made to me that no feelings would be hurt if we did not award some of this. So take that in mind. Sevier, this would be their first request, and it's just for these 2 laptops. I'll just cover this one. Salt Lake County has asked for upgrades to Locken and Associates. Locken is their child welfare provider. Salt Lake County has received, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, around 125,000 in Title IV reimbursements for child welfare expenses that they have not entirely. Sorry, thank you. 250,000 that they have not totally obligated. The rules around obligating this funding that we help them get and which they have never had available before is that it must be used for child welfare and parental defense. It can be used for training. It can be used for salaries. It can be used for appellate representation. This is also not, I like Salt Lake County and they are a good partner. We really want them to use this Title IV funding appropriately. And I think this would be a disincentive to do that. Tooele has already received 23,000 from us in the first round. This is, though, pretty strictly limited to equipment and fits the definitions that we ask for. Generally, all the laptop costs are about the same. Monitor costs are about the same. They vary just a little bit. Yes, that's Tooele. I'm moving quickly. So Uinta's request is complicated. So Uinta also has a managing defender, Lance, who we fund entirely, and they have a great administrative assistant, and they are doing a lot to improve indigent defense in Uinta County, including beginning to move towards a case weighting system where they can really manage the caseload of their defenders and prove that managing defenders can provide a system that gives the accountability that we're looking for. That's why they're able to ask for somewhat more complicated requests. Leslie, if you're still on, can you talk about the Justice Text pilot program? Because I think you know the most about this one.
Oh, yeah. You guys hear me?
Or I can talk about it. I'll talk about these others.
Yeah,
so you can
she's
see
saying,
these.
can you hear me? So yeah, we might not be able to hear her. Go ahead.
You guys still can't hear me?
Okay.
All right.
Your microphone is terrible.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right.
Okay. I will just talk about it. I think this is an interesting ask, and I'd be interested to know from Rich if you do either of these things for your clients and how you feel about that, and Pam and Margaret, if you have any experience with these first two.
Well, we don't. Are they requiring the clients to pay for that in Uinta County as a condition of
so.
participation? And is it drug court testing, or is it? I mean, because there's a whole bunch of buckets here. There's pretrial release testing, there's drug court testing, and there's testing as a condition of probation. Do we know what any of those are? And why isn't
the request did say, but I can't pull it up right now, that they wanted to be able to give defenders patches to be able to give clients right away, and they're $40 a piece. And so they wanted to have a reserve of them. And I think on an interim basis was the way I read it.
It does mention in the request that clients are not able to afford court-ordered testing at pre-trial stages.
Right.
I'm actually not familiar with the program that they have, because I don't think we use. It looks like, I'm looking at the thing that you're talking about, Michael. It looks like there's some kind of pretrial release patch that they put on. It seems odd to me, but
it lasts for a certain number of hours, and then they have to turn it in to be analyzed.
Yeah. And then, I mean, so it's a bit odd. I mean, I guess I'm certainly not opposed to doing it if it is preventing people from getting out of jail because they can't afford the patch. I mean, that certainly is right within our strike zone as an Indigent Defense Commission, is to ensure that there would be an avenue for people to be able to do that. You know, the rest of it, I mean, I know Salt Lake County subsidizes a whole bunch of this stuff in terms of our drug court and the other stuff that we do relative to how those programs work. But it looks like Uinta County is a pay to play kind of county. And if it's hurting clients, it's certainly something we ought to consider.
Or do
Yeah,
we want to go to the county? Sorry,
what was the question, Joanna?
I don't know. Margaret, are there other counties to compare?
You know, to my knowledge, Utah County, I haven't heard that we work that way. I know in our DCFS cases, that's all through a contract through DCFS that's, you know, paid for. I think that Utah County does, I think it's all part of their, either, yeah, I haven't heard of something like that.
It does
And
look like
sometimes we'll have costs, you know, where we sent something out to be confirmed, or for, you know, broader panel as far as investigation and whatnot, but
it does look like, as Rich is saying, it's a pay to play for pretrial release.
You know, the
I
other
wonder if that.
Oh, go ahead, Joanne. No, I was just going to say, the other thing that's a little concerning about this is the whole essence of HB 206, right? Which is release on least restrictive conditions, and the real need is, I mean, it's a total separate conversation about this, but this sort of dovetails right into the whole notion that do we really have that many clients that are subject to pretrial release that have this condition, that in fact may not even need this condition, but it is simply done as a matter of course in Uintah County. So that may not factor into whether or not we grant this, but certainly it's part of the discussion.
The only thing
That was precisely what I was going to say.
that's helpful. I know that during COVID and with the money that came to Davis County to use in response to the pandemic, that our pretrial manager did request some money to help with the cost of folks who were required to get the drug test, because she said that for some that's a barrier. And so it would be very helpful for there to be funding during the pandemic to help pay for those tests. So, and that's the only thing I know, but that's in pretrial.
Well, and here's their second request, right? The subsidized UA testing. That's your analysis. I mean, I think it's a similar issue, Rich, also, right?
Well, no, it is a similar issue, and it's sort of like if the idea behind kind of JRI based changes to the system are to help people overcome these addictions and do those sorts of things, we all know that putting additional costs and expenses on them for these things is another barrier to success, and we know that because we've seen it through the data that we've gathered through the JRI reports and the other sorts of things. I'm not saying we shouldn't do this, because I think it is wholly worthy, but we are also encouraging this county to continue a process of saying you have to continue to pay money if you want to participate in these things. And for us as an Indigent Defense Commission, that really is the demarcation for us, is to say, wait a minute, this is another barrier for these folks that are really trying to overcome drug addiction and participate in a program, and they've got to pay all this money. And we as an Indigent Defense Commission, maybe we should subsidize that, but yet it's a one-time spending, and they will go back to the process of, again, imposing fees on people who probably can't afford the fees.
Yeah, it is basically us subsidizing the counties, taxing the defendants for drug tests in order to be released, which is a little stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
Yes, I think I hadn't processed this entirely as the big policy decision that it really is.
Joanna, and I've been listening because this is my first real round of going through this, but I'm guessing this could be another one of those, like we talked in one of the previous counties, that maybe we don't fund it now and they provide us some more information so we get a better understanding of, is this pay for play? Is it something else? It does sound like pay for play, and we fund it at a later date if it's something that's legitimate. But
yeah, I don't think Uintah has pretrial services of any type, so this would be the judge's finding as Rich said, those least restrictive conditions that aren't really that least restrictive. But I will leave that to you to make that difficult decision. This is the rest of theirs. The only other one I have questions about are why are they asking for Zoom when the court hearings are all on WebEx and they state that's what it's for. They have said that it's for client meetings, but Zoom is also available for free for under an hour meetings. So that's up to you. And then this one, which Leslie is not available to talk about. One of the issues we heard a lot in the pretrial and bail discussions were that the sheriffs and counties were not happy with the courts for the penny warrants, for the 1 cent warrants that required basically law enforcement to tell people they had court hearings and to risk their safety going out to just do that. One thing that other states have and that we would love to see, especially in public defender offices, are text reminders. So that would take law enforcement and the courts out of that reminding of clients of their meetings, right? A text message. And there is a ton of research, you know, text messages are being used for college applications now. And they get kids to apply for college and for the appropriate things and keep them on the hook. And text messaging is so cheap and easy. It's not cheap and easy to stand up the program, right? To create the software, and that I believe is what this is for. So they would use that funding to start it, I assume, by July 1st. And then, let's see, maybe we can go over here to see exactly. Yeah, so I don't think we can award the full amount of this because that's what I thought, going through 2021, we could, if you wanted to, you could support April, May, June, 3 months of it. And then the jail and prison communication system is this. So
Joanna, I just want to
complicated
mention
ask.
that, sorry to interrupt, the question about the cash office supplies, the answer is in the chat, and the description of the Justice Text pilot program is there as well.
Looking at,
Yeah. The Justice Text pilot program is an automated transcribing program that goes through discovery and transcribes and notes who is talking and when in the video. It is a new program and is specifically targeted towards defense.
I've obviously not been involved in these discussions as I was dead wrong. Okay, that's what that is. It still stands that we could only fund 3 months of it. I am wrong, Pam, I am wrong about the text reminders. I still maintain that text reminders, and Rich, we would love to do a pilot project, and Pam, in your offices would be an excellent way to get clients to hearings.
Yes.
And especially a pilot project around that. But that is not this. I'm going to come back to this one because it maybe is a little more complicated. Can you see this, my screen still?
Yes.
So Margaret, this is my apology, but I really would like to suggest that we don't refund Utah County, because I appreciate them asking, but it was made clear to me that they are asking for it because they knew we had money available, and the county just gave them a $1 million increase, which is amazing. And the fact that Utah County is stepping up is awesome. I think that they don't need this from us because we've already given them nearly $500,000 in one-time funding. That, Margaret, you can yell at me or otherwise prove me wrong, but that was what your what your employee told me.
it
Okay,
looks
you're
like
muted.
Things that the county wanted us to do at the beginning of last year. And, you know, it was, or last year was to get a business manager. And we did that, and he's, you know, very on top of things about what our, you know, needs are and things. And so I think that's just a reflective list.
Right. It doesn't mean it's not legitimate. I just don't think it should come from us right now. So that's all. I don't know exactly how to handle a vote, or if you just want to vote on some things and come back and decide on
I've got an
other,
idea.
but
I've got an idea.
okay, let's leave it to our smart chair. I'll stop
So
talking.
just a really good comment here from Leslie. Text reminders are important, and we are working on ways to pilot that in other ways, including Defender Data being interested long-term in integrating that into their program. That's good to hear. So one option is to work with Defender Data to see how to get that ball rolling. Long story short, would love to work toward text reminders in any way possible. And hear from Davis County. Yes. So, I mean, I kind of, as I understood the slides and see who else understands it as well or better, there are the recommendations from staff, and we saw those. And then there were, I think, maybe just a couple that we had discussion over where we were thinking that weren't marked that way on the slides, but that we could specify in the motion if people caught those, or Joanna could go back through and scroll again. Is anyone comfortable with a global motion and we'll help you figure it out if you get stuck?
I guess I would make a motion that we delete anything that's a subscription. Certainly that runs beyond July 1st. Because it seems that we aren't doing what we advertised we were gonna do if we fund subscriptions that run beyond July 1st.
So we would basically limit this to 4 months. We would.
I think it's going to be too hard to remember if we make a global. Could we please go through it county by county?
Sure, Wally, that would be.
Yeah, I think that's a good guideline though, Michael. Also, as we go through it county by county.
Okay. So
let's come back. Let's do that one last. Let's just have Washington be separate because it's a separate issue. Okay. Or not. You tell me where to start.
I think we can start with Washington. Who's ready to make that motion on Washington specifically?
Joanna, this is a question, could we simply reduce their defense resources grant and add reduce it by 56,663? And that way we're not giving them money in a situation where they have to spend their own first.
You could reduce defense resources however you wanted. They haven't asked for that, but it's your purview.
So I would make a motion that we reduce their previous award by 5663 and that we then grant them the one-time 5663 for the Microsoft Office licenses, I guess, if that doesn't create a problem with the subscription. I guess it's not a subscription, it's just a license for a new computer.
You can buy a 1-year license.
Yep.
Okay, I have a second to that motion.
Yeah, I would second that.
Wally, okay, thank you. Joanna, do you think we need, how do you like to do it? Roll call in this case then, or do we just see if any, maybe I'll just say all in favor, what I'll do for all of these is all in favor, and anyone who's voting nay. How's that? And then if it's close, we can do a roll call. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So all in favor to approve that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And just for the record, Mary Corcoran's on the phone and I'm aye, so.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Mary. Yeah, thank you for identifying you were calling it. Okay, are there any opposed to the motion? All right, we'll move on.
Hi, Mary and Dana.
Oh, did someone try to talk?
Nope, I think it was Mary's phone. Okay.
Okay. Cash?
Took a screenshot of you all so I could know who was voting on that.
Yeah. Very good. So should we handle, should we do this whole page? We good with that? All at once?
Sure, here's Can you see this in the chat, the explanation of office supplies?
Yeah.
Chat. Thank you.
Did you have a question about the cell phones, Joanna?
Just whether it included ongoing costs, but I would say that I could find that in the materials.
And I will read it when I see it in the chat, but I'm not seeing an explanation of office supplies in the chat, Joanna, sorry.
Greg put it in there. It was pens, pencils, paper, pens, files, printer ink, jump drive, etc.
Okay.
Right?
And that, what it was broken down by lawyer for 6 lawyers at $500 a piece.
Okay. All right. Very good. You're scrolling to show us that. Okay.
Yeah, that's how they break it down.
Okay. Great. Any further question about that? Okay, then let's go back to that slide. We have cash and Duchesne and Grand.
So it looks like the cell phones are just for the phones.
Yep. I'd move that we grant cash and Grand and not grant Duchesne.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I actually have a substitute motion.
Okay.
And that is, I don't know that we should pay for the court exchange. So I would,
Oh, thank you.
I would move granting cash and Grand minus the $1,440.
Good catch from our prior discussion. Thank you. So I do have a substitute motion.
Heather will second the substitute.
Did you catch who did those, Joanna?
Got him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I accept the substitute.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Are there any opposed? Okay, very good. We'll move on to the next slide. Here we have iron, Juab, and sandpeat. Any further discussion about those, or is someone ready to make a motion?
I think I'm ready to make a motion on that page. I move that we approve it as set forth, except for the adjustment on the 1-year DocuSign subscription.
Yes.
My only question is, can you buy a month-to-month on DocuSign? That's what I'm trying to reread. Scanning. No, yeah, so it's for a 1 year. So like the Microsoft license, it's a 1-year DocuSign subscription. We have DocuSign through the state. I suspect you can't buy a month-to-month, but I'm not positive. So that's just the only thing I would say.
And I guess I can add to that too. We do not have DocuSign at the county. We kind of wish we did, and it really would be helpful during the pandemic to have a DocuSign.
Well,
and beyond.
It's more akin to a license like Microsoft as opposed to an ongoing subscription.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess I'd like to amend my motion to approve this page as set forth for Iron County.
I'll
Okay.
second it. This is Tom Ross.
All right. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Mary's aye as well.
Margaret is aye on Iron County, and on Juab and San Pete, I will abstain due to the conflict of interest.
Very good. Thank you, Margaret.
Was
And
that
are
part
there-
of your motion, Heather? Heather, I think your motion was just to approve iron.
Mine was just Iron County, but
Oh, then aye.
All right. Are there any who are opposed? Say nay. All right. Very good. It seems like the motion though was to, I guess we don't need a separate one, but to not approve Juab and San Pete, right? Does that work, Joanna?
Yeah, it should, same.
Same. It's-
Heather, is that your motion?
Sure, yes, I'll adopt what the commissioners just set forth as my motion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought you intended. Okay, very good.
Tom, did I hear you also second that amended motion?
You did hear me second it
Thank you.
quietly.
Tom, I know your voice, so you won't be able to get past me.
Yeah, that's true. You got me figured out. So
I do.
I second it.
Very good. Okay, next slide then. Here we have Millard, Sevier, and Salt Lake counties, and we staff was not recommending the ones for the reasons explained before for the Millard and Salt Lake counties. So I'll take a motion from somebody.
I'd make a motion, we grant Sevier and not Millard or Salt Lake County.
I'll second that motion.
Very good. Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Madam Chair, this is Rich Morrow. Aye, and I abstain from Salt Lake County.
Very
And
good.
Margaret, I have your abstentions.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And
I should abstain from Salt Lake as well.
And I heard that very softly. Who was that?
Pam and Rich abstain from Salt
Pam
Lake
and,
County.
yeah, very good. That makes sense. Thank
and
you.
Mary's still on the phone.
Okay, Mary, you are, what was your,
Oh,
did you?
aye.
You said aye. Okay, that's what I thought. Very good. Are there any opposed? Please say nay. Okay, very good. We're moving through it. Thanks, everyone. Tooele, I believe the discussion was staff not recommending these things, but
No, just being mindful of that. They did tailor their request appropriately.
got it. Okay. So yes, any further discussion, or is someone ready to make a motion for Tooele?
I'd make a motion, we grant Tooele.
Okay,
Margaret will second it.
very good. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Are any opposed? Please say nay.
I'll abstain though, Lorraine, just
Sounds good.
for, thanks, appreciate it.
All right, let's see.
I'm sorry, before we go to Uinta, may I ask Shane? Hey, Shane, we're about to talk about Uinta and the whole
You mean
issue.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I'm sorry. And we're about to discuss the idea in Uinta of requiring the public defender agency to pay for the patches. Why can't the county pay for that? Why wouldn't that just simply be, rather than this falling as a responsibility for the public defender agency, why shouldn't the county just pay for that? I don't know, through their health department or whatever, but why should it come out of a budget for the public defender office?
You're asking a member of your own choir. I'm not sure how to answer that. All I know is that I'm going to give you the politically sensitive answer and say, if this is a way to bring along some very strong-minded individuals, which the county commission is occupied 100% by, I'm in a compromising mood on this one. I would rather gain some momentum and nudge them in the right direction until they've got that momentum going than to fight it. But I'm not going to disagree with your logic at all, Wally.
So can I add something to answer your question, Molly? I just got a text from the Uinta County Defender, and he said it is a judge, one particular judge doing this, just to put it in context.
So are we now ready have we voted on Tooele? Are we done with Tooele?
We're done with Tooele. We're ready for a motion on Uinta. Yes, Wally.
Hey, Lorraine, can I just bring up a question? Because we talked about it a little bit.
Yes.
Was the Justice Tech's pilot program for 10 months? Is that something that we didn't fill because it went beyond the July 1st date? I know there was some conversation about it.
Well, it's not a pilot for sending text reminders. We think that would be amazing in the future, but that it is instead.
Tom's right, though.
Yeah. So the Justice Text Pilot Program is an automated transcribing program that goes through discovery and transcribes and notes who is talking and when in the video. It's a new program and is specifically targeted towards defense attorneys. So that was super interesting to learn about. And I don't know if that's something that can be spent all for, how do you divide that up? Is it a spending for the whole year though?
Well, it looks like they've already paid for 2 months and they're asking for 10 more through the end of the year.
So does that mean that we need Joanna to just divvy out what we would give them, that it takes care of through the end of June? I don't know.
Yeah, I would just say through the end of June.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the amount would change.
4,000 instead of 10.
You're really interesting to see how well this program works.
Yeah.
I am also interested.
Yeah.
Well, this is Wally, and I don't know what others are thinking with respect to the request for subsidizing the drug testing patches or subsidizing the UA. And I understand the arguments in favor of trying to help people so that it's not a barrier to their success, but it just doesn't seem to me to be something that the public defender agency should be responsible for. So I don't know if people agree or don't agree, but my motion would be with respect to Uinta to approve their request, but not grant the money for the drug testing for subsidizing the UA testing and to only subsidize $4,000 towards the Justice Text Pilot Program.
I'd second that on the grounds that it isn't the county commission that's driving it, it's a judge. And that somehow there ought to be a way to deal with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I just point,
go ahead.
Sorry,
Yeah.
just the Zoom. I don't know how you feel about the Zoom issue, but it strikes me that is.
Oh, yeah.
They're asking for it for court hearings, but Zoom is not used for court hearings. So it's for client meetings. And it's available for free for an hour.
Yeah, if I can amend or modify my own motion to not include the $3,200 for the 8 Zoom licenses. So I'll repeat my motion. So my motion would be with respect to Uinta County to approve 4 tablets, the funding for 4 tablets, 8 webcams, the jail and prison communication system, and 4 months of the Justice Text.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Let me just-
Go ahead, Tom.
Just so we get it right, isn't it 3 months that we're talking? Because there's only 3 months left in the fiscal year.
I would just.
Go ahead.
Greg, is it starting April 1st? Is that our date that we had agreed on?
Yes, Tom, that's a good catch. It is 3 months.
Got it.
Okay, 3 months.
Tom is good at math. Thank you, Tom.
Okay,
I think I have it.
Okay, so we'll count that motion as valid and it's 3 months instead of 4 months, so 3,000. Is that, you guys, am I seeing Wally nod? Joanna, is that accurate? Am I?
Yep.
Okay, all right, everyone understand the motion? Any further discussion on the motion? If not, then let's vote. All who are in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Are there any who are opposed? Please say nay.
Nay.
Okay,
Who said no?
Sean.
okay. Very good. Okay, is that all? Oh,
You
here we
have
go.
to
Yes,
help me deliver this blow, which they have promised me will not be a blow.
right.
They
Sure.
are a great partner. They are a huge partner. We do. This does not reflect our love for Utah County.
No, absolutely. Agreed. So anyone
I
ready?
move we disapprove this.
Okay,
Just deny. You don't have to put
Deny.
disapproval.
was the 350 for the office build out and then the $5,000 to repair the aesthetic damages from removing a sign that sort of ended it for me.
Okay, so I have a motion to deny.
Here we are, very
request.
short on offices, I will tell you.
Someday we need field trips as part of this to go and see, I think. So I do have a motion to deny this request. Is there a second?
Heather will second it.
Heather, thank you. All right, all of those who can approve the motion to deny, please say aye.
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 I'm
And then the
adding
words,
Margaret's.
yes, I abstain courteously, in the words of 1776.
Maybe you could make it at least not unanimous.
Wonderful. I like that quote. Thank you. Very good. And so did we cut, and none, are there any who do not approve that motion? Please say nay. All right. Very good. Wow. Good job, staff, and good job, commissioners. That was a lot. That was a lot, but really good and important.
May I ask one clarifying question?
Yes, please.
Mary, did I correctly hear you abstain on Duchesne? Or not?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
On Duchesne, did you abstain?
I did abstain on Duchesne. Thank you.
Yes.
And Pam, that chat was hiding from me for just a second, but I see in the chat, so good. I think
I actually think, wait, I think you didn't do the motion on Duchesne, and that's why I had to ask that. I think we skipped that page. Can someone correct me while I open that PowerPoint back up? I have a motion for Washington County, Cache County, Grand County. Oh, it was on the Grand. You denied Duchesne as you approved Cache and Grand.
I think that's right.
Sorry, just missed that one. Never mind. Got it.
No problem. Thank you for checking. And yeah, we were doing them kind of as slides, which turned out to be the best way. We'll remember that. That was good.
Yeah.
I've got a question. How is it that Representative Ferry just sort of tractors in and then he's gone? Where is he?
It's magic like that.
He's out there in John Deere land.
Yes, thank you for noticing.
I'd like to see the inside of that tractor.
Like we do need a field trip. We do.
He has a computer and he has screens and microphones.
Totally. And he's always in it. That's the other super curious thing, Tom. You
Well, I
don't
wonder
know.
if it's parked in the outside.
Like it seems like it's a background, but it's not. It's real.
It's what you get for 300,000.
Yeah, it's more than a home office.
And poor Pam Vickery, you know, she always has to talk to us now from her car sitting in the driveway.
Hey, Pam, is that your office?
Carpool, I'm doing all sorts of crap.
Yeah. Pam, I get it. I get it. Very much.
I'll bet you do, yeah.
Well, good work. We have only one last thing and it's going to be quick. In fact, I'm going to make it even quicker. So calendar dates, I went back through these. Originally, there were more dates on your calendar, but now they're down to just these. So please, everyone, and when you can after this meeting, maybe right after this meeting, just double check, make sure you have these particular dates on the calendar. And
Tom does not, but will soon. Sorry.
Yeah. And yeah, because I had extras in there, so I had to clean up my calendar. So just clean up your calendars as needed. These are the dates that we know of, except for the discussion. This discussion is because of me. So if you can do without me on this date, that's okay. But May 27th, I knew about a month ago that fourth child, third son that I mentioned is being married on May 27th, and the groom's family didn't get to weigh in too much. It's an odd day. It's the Thursday before Memorial Weekend, but that is the wedding day. So I cannot make that one. So if you would like to consider an alternative, just knowing how tricky calendars are, like I have availability.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Lord,
please,
Commissioner Kamala? Greg, I know my staff has structured the grant process pretty carefully, and moving that date may affect it. I just want to be sure that we have some ability to move it. I'm looking at you, Greg, Adam, Leslie, someone to do a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I think it would be better if it's moved into the beginning of June as opposed to earlier in May.
And that was a similar question to what I had. So
How about June 3rd? You have the pre-trial release meeting, Commissioner Kamalu, but it ends at 2.
that is correct. So I don't mind having them back to back. And I know others of you have that same meeting. So just
Yeah,
discussion here, if that's a possibility, if people can see their calendars. And I'm really sorry. I said to the bride and groom and the bride's family, that is a bad day. But I was overruled. After all, I'm just the groom's mom. But anyway, if that can work, if you guys, if there's not anyone else who knows they have a conflict, maybe that's.
I would suggest the reward for that is canceling this meeting and changing it to the 3rd.
Oh, yeah.
Is
If
this
you
a
think,
4-hour is this a 4-hour meeting? I notice I have an invitation for June 3rd, 2021, 2 to 6 p.m.
No, your meeting, that must have been an old one. I do think either April 22nd or May, whatever, June 3rd may be longer. Greg, if you can talk about that, because we're going to have to go through the grant awards in some detail.
yeah.
Yes, that's true. It is a new process, so I'm not sure yet at this stage exactly how long, but it will probably be longer than a normal meeting.
And I'm looking at
Which one?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Greg.
Probably the May, or excuse me, the June 3rd meeting would be slightly longer.
June 3rd will be slightly longer. I think that's what he said. Yeah, that's what I remember from last time. But you really think that we wouldn't need the June 24th then, Joanna?
I'm just trying to entice people. I think we'll be okay without it, but there's a risk we may need to put it on there if there's any lingering funding issues, but we could do it electronically.
Sure, yeah.
And we do everything electronically. Never mind, I forgot. I was pretending that we were in person. Never mind.
Okay, so I do see in the chat, some people have been putting it there. So Ryan, June 3rd is good. Margaret, June 3rd is good. Heather, June 3rd is good. June 3rd is good for me.
I'm good.
So that's Michael, good.
Yeah.
This is Sean.
Sean?
Sorry, Sean.
I will not be able to make it. I've got an all-day commitment that I have to be in charge of that day.
We will miss you, and we will talk to you ahead of time for any information you may want to share with us.
Copy that.
I will optimistically set it for 2 to 5 p.m., hoping that we can be done by 4 and being very cognizant of your time and the efficiency of that meeting. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I think that's wise. I think that's a wise idea.
Can we just move the calendar invite from the 27th to the 3rd?
I have done that. You should have invites in your email. If you don't, then text me.
Oh, so can you just confirm which one are we canceling and how are we moving it? Recap.
Yeah, so May 27th has been moved to June 3rd. And should we leave the 24th on there, or should we just, I think we can cancel it. We're not going to need a meeting 3 weeks later. I feel confident in my staff's ability. So I'm going to cancel June 24th.
Okay. Okay. Did everyone catch that okay? Plus you'll already see when you're able to look at your calendar that it already popped up. So that's super helpful. And maybe, do you send out cancellations too, or do we just need to clean those up ourselves? Oh, you already did it.
You should have both in your inbox. I can hear someone's inbox receiving my notification. So
very good. Yes, that was efficient. Thank you, Joanna. And I'm thanks everyone. I mean, I guess if I weren't chair, you could have gone on without me, but that would be tricky, I suppose. So thank
You can also designate an alternate chair, Commissioner Kamala, for future reference. We've done that before,
And
but I think this one's important.
okay, yeah, be happy to always consider that. The others all look good for me for the rest of the year, for sure. Well, this has been a really great meeting. I think that really finishes this up, unless there's any last question or comment. Thank you for the extra 13 minutes. I hope you guys all go out and get a treat, whatever that means to you, for Indigent Defense Day. And thank you so much for your help.
Thank you.
Great.
I think you need a motion.
Oh, I need
just
a
for the
motion
record.
to adjourn, probably. Go ahead.
Real quick.
Heather made the motion to adjourn and
Second.
seconded by Michael. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thanks, staff. Thanks, Joanna. Joanna, I'm going to hurry and call you so I don't forget a couple things.
Bye, Pam.
I'm going to stop.